Hello, everybody, and welcome to the show today. I'm really excited everybody could join us. So today with us is a really cool guest talking about some topics we've never dove into before, and I'm really excited to decode some of these things because I think a lot of us have heard about things like blockchain technology, but we're not really sure where it's relative to things that we're exposed to in our day-to-day lives and what's going on in our businesses. So with us today, I brought one of the foremost experts on this topic. His name is Sami Rusani, and he's the Chief Revenue Officer at ShipChain, which is a blockchain-based solution provider for the transport and logistics industry. Now, after a successful $30 million raise in a week, they are now building a platform that will disrupt the multi-trillion-dollar industry. And as a serial entrepreneur, blockchain advocate, investor, and talent manager, Sami's worked with some of the biggest brands in the world, such as Sony, Fender, Virgin, Universal Music, Ogilvy, Heineken, Visa, Mercedes, and more. So, Sami, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming in today.
Thank you so much. That was a fantastic introduction, I have to say.
Well, I appreciate it, man. You've done so much, so we could sit here and go on and on about all of your accomplishments. But listen, I'm really excited you could join us today because, like I told you before we got started, this is an area that's even kind of foreign to me. I don't know a lot about blockchain and crypto and ICOs and a lot of things that you're involved in. So I'm really interested in picking your brain to see what's going on, see what you guys are doing over there with ShipChain to disrupt logistics and just kind of get our listeners a better feel for how all this works.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what led you to give us kind of an idea of your past? What kind of led you to the point that you are where you are today?
Oh, that was a long and winding road, man. Born raised in Sweden, moved here when I was about 25 or so, and then always worked in the entertainment industry. Well, actually started in IT, and then switched over to entertainment. Did some tour management, managed bands, did a lot of work with branding and marketing for some of the major labels and some pretty big brands in the music industry. And then kind of went over to working in performance marketing and a lot of online marketing, always looking for new, innovative kind of things to do. It all came from marketing my little shitty bands back home, right? I had to, with no money and no connections, I had to figure out a way to like, how do I go in and kind of just stir up the whole industry and stick it to the man and, do my own thing. And I think that kind of followed me through the whole career that I have had, and mostly sales marketing and then consulting online, building media groups, building agencies, etc. And blockchain really came into, I got into it about 4 years ago. It started with, like most other people, started with Bitcoin, right? And you're like, oh, you're buying Bitcoin. There's a new currency, and it was almost like, when the internet was coming out, you're like, there's something big happening. I'm not sure what it is, but I know it's going to be big. People are talking about it. And, from there, I was like buying into Ethereum when that came out. And then I was like, wait a second, what exactly is this? What am I buying into? I think it's cool, but I don't understand what it is. And then I dug into the whole blockchain technology, right? The technology that these cryptocurrencies, among other things, are based on. And my mind was just blown. I was like, holy cow, this is this world changing as it can. This is the next phase of the internet. This is the next phase of business. This is the next phase. This is the fourth industrial revolution we're entering right now.
Yeah, that's
That's kind of
amazing, and
what
I'm
happened.
glad that you could join us here. So then, what got you? I mean, that's a big jump from managing or promoting your small bands to now working for a company that's completely changing logistics and the industry that you're in. So what got you to a point where you're actually now working with ShipChain?
Well, like I said, I mean, it started with the small bands, and then it got bigger and bigger and bigger, and then I worked with all the major brands. Then me and the CMO Brian Evans, we built a PR agency. We got on the Inc. 500 list. We worked with a ton of huge brands, a ton of huge artists, and then one day, what really happened was we were in a chat because we'd done business with our CEO John before with our agency, and because he owns one of the biggest fulfillment centers in the South, and and we've sent some of our client stuff there and other merchandise, and we had this chat that was a little crypto chat, and John was kind of going on and on about all the problems he's experiencing in the warehouse and all the problems we've experienced with all the merchandise we've been sending out. And when I've been consulting for these global brands, there's always been trouble and problems with, especially international freight, moving stuff from, Asia over to the US and getting it distributed. And there's always delays, there's always extra cost, there's always something disappears. It's just, and we were all like, wait a second, this is the perfect application for blockchain technology to kind of go in and disintermediate and just disrupt or redefine, as we use now, because disrupt is such a hype word, but this massive industry. And then, not really coming from the industry, I realized that it's one of the oldest industries on this planet, and it's also one of the biggest. It's over $10 trillion in market cap.
Wow.
Which is pretty insane.
Well, so now, you're talking about how it blew your mind with blockchain. Well, blow our mind. I mean, I think a lot of people on here listening have heard of blockchain. It's almost impossible not to, right? With the crypto and with, all these things that are out there. We talked about that before we jumped in and got started. But a lot of people still don't understand the basic foundation of what blockchain technology is. So give us some background. What is blockchain?
So blockchain, I mean, it's a massive concept, but I think the official kind of explanation that I'll dig into is that it's a distributed ledger technology, and it can record transactions between parties in a secure and permanent way. Now, what does that mean? Well, in the past, you were kind of forced to trust one institution that held a record of the ledger, let's say for financial transactions now, but blockchain can do way more than that, digital identities and code and all kinds of cool stuff. But let's start with the basic concepts, right? You have a ledger, it has credits and debits, right? You're supposed to trust the bank, or you're supposed to trust the whatever financial institution you have, and look at how that's gone. I mean, we have banks opening multiple fake accounts. We have banks laundering money. We have banks doing all kinds of shady stuff with your money, right? With the distributed ledger technology, is you're sharing databases between multiple parties, and blockchain kind of removes the need for these intermediaries who we previously had to trust as a third party, right, to verify and record and coordinate all transactions, etc. So I mean, I always describe it as you have a traditional ledger, right? And it's owned by one entity. It's owned by a business or an organization or a group. And then it's controlled by a designated administrator from that business, right? For example, an accountant, right? So the administrator, he can implement changes. He can change the ledger however he wants without requiring consensus from you. Right. And that's what's been happening, for example, with banks, for example, with other institutions where just weird stuff has been going on, right? Now, with blockchain, you can't update that ledger. It can't be updated by one admin. It can only be updated if everybody on the network agrees. And then all the changes that happen are auditable, which means you can always go back and trace one single point of truth. Your data isn't distributed among a million different databases and nobody knows what's going on. There's one single point of truth, and that's what we can follow back and kind of trace. Provenance is a big word in transport and logistics, for example. You want to know where your mango came from. You want to know where your diamond, your leather, your food, your goods, whatever it is, came from. And you don't want that data to be spread out among 1,000 databases where nobody takes accountability and stuff disappears, et cetera, et cetera. There's one single point of truth, and that's what's so important with blockchain technology.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Kind of helps.
So yeah, no, I mean that's a great way of looking at it. So unlike banks that, like you said, have done a lot of shady things we've seen recently, where they're controlling the data, they can manipulate the data, and you've always kind of been dependent on them. And then the third party that's sent to regulate, let's say, or oversee what they're doing, those are the two parties which can be easily manipulated to be able to.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what we saw. That's one of the biggest, we identified a couple of, if we go to the transport and logistics industry that we work in, that we've seen, first of all, it doesn't have a unified tracking and tracing system for, tracking container, especially if it goes intermodal, which means it goes on different mediums such as, sea, and then it goes on rail, and then it goes on a truck, for example. It's the same container. So what happens is there's no unified tracking, so it goes through anything between 3 to 12, 14, 15 different tracking systems. Now, what happens there is that there's no accountability, okay? All these tracking systems don't talk to each other at times, right? So either you have to hire a broker that's going to add a massive amount of fees to try and keep track of this. And then you also have, just in the US, for example, there's more than $30 billion worth of theft reported every year. And this is a low number because not everybody reports theft because they don't want to hurt their image and credibility, et cetera, right? So, I mean, we're talking some massive numbers here. And this is because there's no unified system. You can't track, from one single source of truth. You have 8 sources of truth who aren't talking to each other. And of course stuff's going to disappear. Of course stuff's going to be delayed. Of course stuff's going to, it's going to be messed up.
Sure,
you see what I mean?
Because you don't know, the shipping company, the freight company that's dealing with the boats, the ships, they blame it on the rail, right? And then the rail guys go, oh, we never even got it. It was the ship guys that never got it to us. And you don't really know.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that makes sense. So blockchain then takes it from being, controlled by a few parties that easily have the ability to manipulate it so the data is not even reliable, and it really opens it up and gives it open to everybody so everybody can track it back and see what's going on in real time. So now everybody is accountable for the data. Everybody can access the data. It's not just accessible to a chosen few that can easily manipulate it.
Exactly. So I mean, I think people are kind of wrong with this. All blockchain technologies, it's or Bitcoin or whatever, right? It's so anonymous and that's scary. And I'm like, it's not really that anonymous because every single transaction is recorded on the blockchain. Of course, it's hard to know who owns the wallet because the wallets don't have names like, oh, this is Sam's wallet, this is Ty's wallet, right? It's just a number. Do you see what I mean? It's like, but every single transaction is recorded and saved in a permanent way. You cannot alter anything in a blockchain. I was just going to say that's the interesting thing, and it's also very secure because since the database is now hosted on millions of computers when it comes to at least Bitcoin and Ethereum, you need 51% to kind of create an attack on the network to do evil stuff, and to get 51%, you literally have to hack millions of computers at exactly the same time all over the world.
Sure.
You see what I mean? How unlikely that is, as opposed to, again, hacking one single source. We all saw what happened with Equifax. There's one source. It got hacked. All these social security numbers got stolen.
Yeah, and it continues to, right? I mean, and Equifax, holds so much more data than almost anybody, but whether it be Target or any of these sources that are out there, because they have a single system that all you have to do is focus all your time and energy on learning to hack that one system. Then, like you said, it's it seems like nothing is secure nowadays. But you really see blockchain as really one of the crucial aspects to our future because it gives us more of that security because so many people would have to engage to be able to do the same thing that's now being done just by hacking one database.
Yes, exactly. And this helps tracking, for example, again, micropayments, sure. We can do digital identities. It's a huge thing. I love a project called ID 2020. Where they are giving digital identities to, the goal is to do it for, I think, 3 or 4 million people by 2020. But overall in the world, I think there's 1.5 or 2 billion people that live without proof of their existence, which means that, they can't get a bank account. They can't get any social help from social services. They can't get a driver's license. There's a lot of issues with this. And if you issue, a digital identity on the blockchain, it's impossible to tamper with. Just like, for example, MIT started issuing diplomas on the blockchain now because it's tamper-proof, right? You can't go in and edit it. They've had problems with that before, where students hack their computers and they go in and change their grades, and
Sure.
you see what I mean? So in transport logistics, there's a whole bunch of stuff. But for example, driver certification, because you want to know that the driver is really certified to transport your metal solvent
Sure.
there. Do you see what I mean? Like, it's just there's so many possibilities with this whole
no,
thing.
and it also it originally started with Bitcoin. I mean, Bitcoin, and I think Nakamoto, who I think was the founder of Bitcoin. This was really the first time that we saw this released, right? I mean, is that the first time that we were really even exposed to this? Didn't he really kind of create this blockchain type of technology?
Yeah, absolutely. That's when it came into practicality, so to speak. The concept of a distributed ledger technology, I think, was, I don't remember the names, but there was a book written about it slightly, a bit earlier than, I think, 2009, when the mysterious Satoshi Nakamoto posted on a forum that he had invented a way of getting rid of the biggest problem with any e-currency previously, was the problem of double spending, right? Where people would, let's say I have a file, right, and it says I have $100. I'm going to send it to you, but I'm going to keep a copy for myself because nobody's going to verify it on my computer anyway. So now you have $100 and I have $100. That's not so great. So he solved that double spending problem by creating this blockchain where, the consensus algorithms have the network kind of verify that, okay, one, do you have that Bitcoin you want to send? And then they do these cryptographic calculations, add it to a block, and then once everything is verified and calculated, that's when the funds get transferred.
Sure.
You see what I mean? Instead of just, well, let's send it out and see what happens. So yes, absolutely. So that's kind of when it was introduced to the world, and nobody knows who this guy or girl or group is. So it's an
So what are
interesting
some
story.
other industries, and obviously you guys are really using it as a disruptor in ShipChain, but what other industries are you seeing that this blockchain is really, really having a serious impact?
Oh, fintech. Absolutely. Any kind of financial technology is going to be massively disrupted. I'm not saying banks are going to go away, but I'm saying they're going to have to redefine their business plans real quick. Because look at the limitations of a bank. First of all, they're doing all kinds of shady stuff, right? But hey, who am I to, talk down on on banks, because I have a bank account, I have credit cards, etc. It's a must in today's society. But what happens is there's some of them, there's a lot of shady stuff going on, and then two, hey, I want to wire X amount of money on a Sunday afternoon at 3. Nope, not gonna happen. You have to wait till Monday for some weird reason, because there's everything is machines. There's no people sitting there verifying that, oh, Ty, you want to send whatever amount to Sam? No, let's see. Somebody has to check this. This is all automated stuff, right? But still, you have to wait until the banks are open for this. And this, of course, so they can hold your money and make money with it. And then and then you got to pay massive fees while, somebody just, I think, was it with Litecoin or even Bitcoin transactions? Somebody transferred $100 million on a Sunday, and it cost like 25 cents, and it happened in a matter of minutes. As opposed to, I need to send something to the UK. Okay, it'll be there in 7 days, and you're like,
Right.
Why?
Right.
It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So that's one. I think the insurance industry. Any industry with a lot of intermediaries, where brokers exist, for example, I think, again, I don't want to say that, all brokers and all industries are going to go away. I don't think that's going to happen, but they're going to have to redefine their business plans. Just like, an example I always pull is that, look at IBM. They used to sell computers. They no longer sell computers. They're a consulting company because they're keeping up with what's happening in the world. Now, there's a ton of companies that didn't keep up with what's happening in the world, and we've seen the rise and fall of them. You know, Blockbuster, we have Sears, Toys R Us, Radio Shack, Borders. I mean, there's a ton of them where we thought 10 years ago, oh, these are massive conglomerates, nothing's ever going to happen. Well, what happened was that Netflix came along, and 9,000 Blockbuster stores had to close within 2 years.
Yeah, and what? Give an example of how this is working for you, because I think it makes perfect sense. I mean, this is, like you said, it's not maybe as big as the internet, but it is likely as big as that, because it changes all of this in our ability to access data and also control the validity of the data that we're accessing. So that being said, give us an idea of what you guys are doing at ShipChain with this to disrupt your guys' industry.
Well, so what we're doing is we're building an ecosystem where all the players in a global supply chain can come in and integrate. That's our whole motto, is to integrate, not to replace, right? We're not coming out and saying, hey, everybody should replace whatever they're using and just use our platform. No, we integrate with existing solutions. So let's say you're transporting stuff, again, from Beijing to Detroit, whatever, I don't know. Now, instead of going through all these different tracking platforms, instead of faxing and using pen and paper or using whatever systems you use, we add a blockchain layer to all of this. So we collect data from all the existing systems you use, or we can also help you track and trace through our own platform. So you can keep track of your containers and pallets in real time. And when you integrate with IoT devices, for example, right, there are now sensors you put in a container that gives you not only real-time geographic location, it also gives you humidity and temperature and how many times it's been opened. There's tamper-resistant labels for pallets that, if you tamper with them, they're going to send a signal to the device, and we're going to know that somebody's trying to mess with the pallet. So what we're really doing is building that tracking and tracing part, where you can track and trace your products from origin to end, so to speak, right, from farm to table. And then also another important aspect of that is document handling. That's a big problem we've seen with all the big companies we've been out talking to, and the small ones too, is just document handling in shipping and logistics, or transport and logistics, is just very arcane. Like it takes a lot of time. There's a lot of processes to it, but putting documents on the blockchain, again, going back to what we talked about before, means that you have one single source of truth. It's not a PDF scattered among 800 computers or a fax that went missing somewhere. It's right there, and we can audit every single change that has happened along the way, if it's been updated, if it's been whatever has happened, right? Which makes it way more efficient. So blockchain drives efficiency. It reduces bureaucracy. It makes everything. People always ask me, well, because when we talk about like the theft, for example, right? People ask, well, is blockchain going to prevent theft? No, it's not, but it's going to help pinpoint where it happened. So that's what we're doing. The tracking and tracing, the document handling, and then of course, in an ecosystem, you have to have a circular flow, so to speak, and that's where we have the driver rewards program, where we reward truck drivers for proper reporting, and we reward them for driving in a correct way, so to speak. Don't drive, only drive the hours you're supposed to drive. Don't drive too fast. Don't idle your engine for too long because we're thinking green, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what we're doing. It's an ecosystem that effectivizes and secures and decentralizes the whole global supply chain.
I mean, that sounds like not only is it going to save tens of billions of dollars across the world, but it sounds like it's just going to save a lot of time and combine a lot of different platforms and technology, and really give everybody in the future the ability to just use one to run almost and access and track everything they need to.
Yeah.
So now you guys raised a bunch of money in a very short period of time. And did you guys use an ICO to do that?
Well, we had one planned, but we sold out in the pre-sale, so we never got to an ICO. but we did issue a token where we had mostly industry contributors
Okay, so
purchase
talk a
those
little bit more
tokens.
because that's another big thing that you have a lot of knowledge and experience on. That a lot of our listeners, this is a new concept to them. What exactly is an ICO and how does that work?
So an ICO is short for initial coin offering. It is a fundraising process where a company issues cryptocurrency or tokens um, as a means to raise funds. So what you're doing is you're buying tokens. Now it depends on if it's a security or a utility token, right? If it's a security token, you're kind of investing in a company and expecting a return, so to speak. Whereas if it's a utility token, you're contributing to a platform for future use on that platform, for example, right? So if you're buying traditionally, when you want to invest or contribute to a project, you're buying equity, right? That's how they usually raise funds. Or nowadays they have crowdfunding where you're buying an actual product. An ICO, you're buying a token that the company is issuing, and the token has a function in whatever project or platform they're building. So it's a new way of raising funds. It's gotten a lot of hype because there's more funds raised by ICOs than VC money coming into blockchain technology. So I mean, it's literally billions of dollars have been raised through ICOs
So
in
is it
just the last
only
12 months.
relative then? So you basically have to be working with some kind of crypto to be able to use an ICO.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very, very good question because what's happened is there are a lot of very legit blockchain projects where the token has a function in their ecosystem. Now you have to realize, why is a token created? Like, why are Bitcoins created? Why are, Ethereum tokens created? It's because blockchain technology, open blockchain technology, is a reward-based system. Somebody needs to verify all these super advanced cryptographic calculations that are going on to verify the transactions on the distributed ledger that we talked about. And if you're the computer that solves that problem, that algorithm, that cryptographic calculation, you get rewarded, because otherwise, why would you, spend massive amounts on buying, graphic cards and computer power to help solve problems if you're not getting rewarded for it? So it's a reward-based kind of system. So that's why really tokens were issued, so to speak. Why I'm saying it's a really good question is because since it's such a popular way of raising funds nowadays, there are also a whole bunch of projects that are issuing a token just to issue a token and raise money, where the token doesn't really have any functionality, which I, slightly despise, of course, but on the other hand, hey, props to entrepreneurs trying to do their thing. But if you're looking at it from a more, I guess, purist kind of way, but the token needs to have functionality in
Sure,
whatever
not
project
just for
you're
the
building.
purpose of fundraising. So what you're saying is, and the token's almost the business's
Yeah.
form of their own currency, right?
Yeah, currency or a form of internal, um, what would you call it? It's like an internal point system. Like you have American Express points, right? I mean, they're not. It's
Sure.
not a currency per se, but it is in their own ecosystem. You have, the air miles and all the travel rewards and all
Now, I'm
that stuff.
using
So yeah,
that as an
absolutely.
example. With American Express, I then have options, right? I can take my points, I could cash them out and just get money towards my bill, or I could use it to buy other things. Is it the same thing here with these tokens that when a business is issuing these to raise funds, then the people that are investing in the business and buying them, then what use do they have? Where are those tokens? How do those tokens provide value to that buyer?
Well, so again, that completely depends on the project, right? Because if you're buying Bitcoins or Ethereum, then their mission is kind of to become global currencies, right? The massive market adoption. You're supposed to walk into a 7-Eleven and buy a sandwich with Ether
Right.
or Bitcoin. You see what I mean? But then you have certain utility tokens or just certain tokens where that would never ever be the case, because for example, if you take ShipChain for example, we're a utility token, so we're never going to say that we're going to be a currency that you can use somewhere else, because you can only use the ship token on our platform. That's it. That's what it was intended to uh, be used, and that's the only place you can use it.
Sure,
You see what I mean? It doesn't make
then
sense
in
for us
that
to
case,
go
it's
out
almost
there and
similar to crowdfunding, where the people that are buying and exchanging the money for the tokens are people that probably have some kind of deeper interest in what you're doing, meaning they will be using those tokens to actually use your platform.
Yeah, exactly. But just like I mean, here's where the discussion gets really interesting, of course, is that uh, there will always be secondary markets for everything. I mean, if you're looking at, Pokemon cards, right? You're supposed to play Pokemon with them, but there's a massive secondary market where people trade, buy, and sell. But that's nothing, the Pokemon company, whatever it's called, they're not in control of that. So there are, of course, projects where, and that's what I guess that's what regulators are talking about now, is that, well, there are secondary markets for a lot of these tokens. So how can they be utility tokens, et cetera, et cetera? But that's nothing that would ever
Quiet.
prevent.
No, stop,
You know
stop,
what I mean?
stop.
Like
Quiet.
I could after we hang up say, hey man, I have 100,000 American Express points. Do you want to buy them for whatever, $100, or I don't know what they're worth, but you see what I mean? We can create our own secondary market, and you still can't tell American Express that, oh, you're now a security because somebody's trading your stuff, outside of your platform. So it's a very advanced, or it's a very complex question, but at the same time, the answer is yeah, it's supposed to be used on the platform it was intended to be used on, except for some of these that are
Sure,
trying to
and to
compete
trade
with
in the
global
secondary
currencies.
market.
Yeah,
And so, how do you think that
yeah.
that's really going to disrupt, from your experience, the world of fundraising?
Oh, massively, because again, this is, I mean, blockchain technology gives the power to the people, right? That's what it's really about. Blockchain technology is not only a technology; it's a movement, it's a revolution, it's going to completely revolutionize, and it already has, I would say, fundraising. Again, making it easier for people to. I mean, there are literally people who've never raised money before raising $100 million in minutes, you know. Um, and I've seen projects that are super legit, and they raise anywhere between 15, 20, 30, 40, 100, 200 million dollars, and I mean, they would never have gotten that kind of money from VCs and angels. I mean, I've raised VC money before for other projects, and it's a gruesome process of whining and dining for that 250K or that 500K. And if you're doing a seed round, don't you even dare ask about $5 million. Are you
Right.
crazy? Do you see what I mean? While and if you're asking for 5 million, you'd better have a working project that's making $1 million a year, right? But here, all you have is an idea on a white paper, and people raising $100 million just based on that idea.
Yeah, and
So
you don't
it's
even have
pretty
to give up
amazing.
a percentage of ownership or equity in your business for it either.
If you're doing VC, yeah, exactly. If you're doing
Right.
VC raises, yes, that's what you're selling. And sometimes what happens is they want to come in and take control, or a large chunk, and tell you what to do. And when you're buying tokens, you have zero equity, uh,
Yeah,
in the
that makes a
company.
bunch of sense. And you guys never got a chance to do that, though. You created your tokens, but ended up making your first round or pre-round of funding before you even, exchanged the token for investment.
Right, exactly. Yeah, we didn't sell any equity from ShipChain at all. We did a pre-raise, like I said, and then it sold out before we even got
That's
to the
great,
ICO, so
man.
we
That's
had to
great.
cancel the
Good, good.
ICO.
Congratulations. Great for you. Um, so where can our
Oh, thank you.
listeners go, and what steps should they take to kind of learn more about what you guys are doing over there at ShipChain? especially if they're anywhere close to being in the industry that could benefit. Because I'm sure a lot of people want to know more about you, learn more about kind of what you've learned along the way about ICOs and blockchain and what you guys are doing at ShipChain. So where should all of our listeners go to kind of get in touch and to learn more?
So for ShipChain, it's ShipChain.io listed there. We also have a Telegram group. It's linked on the website where you can. It's a very active community. Lots of industry people talking about different solutions and different things in the Telegram group. There's over 30,000 members there, so it's a highly vibrant community. We're hosting meetups every now and then. We just had one yesterday here in LA, actually. And then, of course, Twitter, just ShipChain. And then if you want to link up with me, I'm on Twitter at Sam Rusani, SamRusani. And you can also find me on, all the social media. There's Instagram, LinkedIn. I'm pretty active on as well. Sometimes I post some crazy Instagram.
Yeah, and you have a pretty cool blog too, right? The 6foot9.com. I like that, man. It's been a bunch of time on there. There's some really good info on a lot of different topics there. I love that. I love your page.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. It needs to be updated. I'm gonna put some more blockchain stuff on there as well. But I used to have it as a platform just to kind of vent, and help entrepreneurs and vent about different things I see that people do wrong and etc. It's been a pretty popular site for a lot of people. I'm just glad to help. I've been an entrepreneur all my life. I've had massive successes, and I've had a couple of crash and burns too, and I've learned a lot.
Well, listen, I'm going to put those on the show resources page. Everybody listening, I'm going to put ShipChain.io's link, as well as Sam's LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and I'm also going to put a link to his personal blog. Hey, Sam, I really appreciate you coming on and sharing with us today. You really opened up our eyes to a couple topics, and I really appreciate you sharing with us about ICOs. And we talked a little bit about crypto and got a lot of time about blockchain. And I really love, and I think it's so interesting what you guys are over there doing with ShipChain. It sounds like you guys are going to do some really fantastic things, man. So congratulations, and again, thanks for your time for coming on.
Hey, thank you so much, man. I had a great time. Great questions.
All right, so everybody listening, make sure you check out ShipChain.io. They are doing some crazy cool things over there, and I love their site. It gives a lot of insight about what they're doing to disrupt the transportation logistics industry. And also check out the other links here on the show resources page. I'm going to give you about 5 direct links here to get in touch with Sam or to contact and see what he's doing on social channels. All of these are very, very, very interesting. And like I said, I spent a lot of time on his blog and thought it was interesting because there's so many topics that are so important to entrepreneurs that we all should know and things we should be doing. So make sure that you check out those links in the show resources page. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Make sure you visit ShipChain.io and also check out the other links on the show resources page to learn more about what Sam's doing as well. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.